Welcome back to another Pokemon What If Wednesday, where every Wednesday morning we go through last week's investing and collecting questions, where your guys' questions will actually be featured in the video, and one person's question will help me make the thumbnail every single week. So please drop your questions down below for a chance to be in next week's video, and if I did comment to you saying great question, I might use this and I didn't, please drop that same question again and put repeat question, it'll get moved to the top. Even then, it's not guaranteed because I get so many questions, but I promise I will eventually get to you. And we are going to do a giveaway today. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed, you got to hit that notification bell, you have to hit that like, and you have to answer the question of the day. Which Pokemon do you guys like the most? Entei, Raikou, or Suicune? And these are the cards we're giving away today. We got a Lunala GX Gold Promo and a Cynthia's Roserade Illustration Rare. And I do have to announce the winner from last week's giveaway, and that is at Woke Up Dangerous 1241. So to shoot me an email or hit me up on Instagram, I'll get those cards sent out to you. And this is going to be our shortest What If Wednesday ever. I am super sick right now. The whole family's sick. We were up the entire night on the bathroom floor. So we're going to do like 12 questions today instead of our normal 20. So I apologize for that. And we do have to give a big thanks to our video sponsor real quick, and that is Collectr. This app is the best of the best. Even their website is great. I've been using it a ton more, and I'm going to start using it a lot more for my content coming very, very soon. But no other app even compares, and they're always trying to improve by adding new boxes, cards, and features. So let us know down below if there's anything you want them to add or work on, and they'll get working on that immediately. And they also do more giveaways than anyone in this entire hobby. So definitely check them out and follow them on all their socials. I'll have all the links in the description. And then, of course, if you're going to grade through PSA for your first time, click my link, use the code BEARD25, and you get $25 off your very first submission, which is basically a free graded card. And the binder bound t-shirt and hoodie are almost sold out, so definitely check those out. All right, first question is from at Koas Kitchen. Bearded Wisdom, I have a problem. I love ripping packs and I cannot stop. I just recently got back into it and I just want to pull the top pulls from sets. How can I stop? I just don't get the same feeling when I buy a card as a single. I cannot stop spending money on packs and ripping them. Help, please. So first things first, you should never overspend or, actually hurt your finances to rip open packs or collect Pokemon cards and stuff like that. You have to be smart with your money. I'm not sure how old you are. I'm not sure if you got kids or a house or what your bills are, but just make sure all of that stuff is taken care of before you spend money ripping packs. But no joke, it can be a straight up addiction. It is basically gambling. Just like people get addicted to the casino, you can 100% get addicted to ripping open packs. So you really got to ask yourself, do you like ripping packs more than the actual cards themselves? Are you just addicted to the thrill of ripping open packs? Because if you are, then, that's a big problem. That can snowball and get absolutely crazy to where you spend so much money and you could honestly ruin your life over it. We've seen many, many stories of people doing that. So just make sure you got all your finances taken care of. And then one thing I really like to think of is, let's say you just pull a brand new card like the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions, right? You pull it, you look at it for a second, you set it down, you run around, you're all excited. And let's say I had an Umbreon also from Prismatic and I just swapped the cards. You would never know in a million years. Like, they're just pieces of cardboard technically. And I know people like to think like it's fate or like skill that they pull it, but it's honestly just completely random. And another thing I love to think about also is you could have two collectors. One that's very smart with their money and buys singles and just opens pack every once in a while. Or you have the other person who just rips open nonstop. They don't ever buy singles. The person who buys singles will have a better collection. Honestly, 99.9% of the time, there's going to be that one crazy person who just gets super lucky and pulls a ton of stuff. But that's not going to last forever either. After a year or two, you're going to start losing a ton of money. And here's the thing, almost nobody keeps track of what they spend when they're opening up packs. That's a big problem because it adds up super, super quick, especially in this market. And if you guys are paying anything over MSRP for any of this stuff. So if you actually do love Pokemon more than just gambling, then you shouldn't have a big problem getting singles. What you can do is try to hunt super, super clean singles. It makes it a little bit more challenging instead of just going to eBay or TCG Player and buying a card. Maybe go to a bunch of LGSs and stuff in stores and card shows and hunt for some super, super clean ones that you could potentially grade down the road or do whatever. That makes it a little bit more challenging. And once you actually find that super clean raw card, I'm telling you, it does hit. Not as much as ripping open packs and pulling your chase card, but it is very, very nice, and you're going to make so much more money doing it this way. So just definitely try to, buy singles whenever you can. If there's a set that you're obsessed with, just go try to hunt the singles in super mint condition to where, maybe you won't feel like opening that box as much because you have every single card already. And they might not mean as much to you as, a card you pulled, but that's totally fine. Not every card you own has to like mean crazy amounts to you. It can just be part of a bigger collection. And once that collection is complete, that's when stuff like really feels special to me. I have a lot of vintage master sets that I spent literally like 10, 15, 20 years trying to complete, just piece by piece, card by card, buying big collections just to sell everything in there, just to get that one card for free for my set. So, I've been doing that forever. And once you actually complete the set, it's the best feeling in the world. And that's going to be really tough to do by just opening packs. It takes forever to pull open a master set. Danny Phantom's talked about it a ton of times. It takes forever. And another thing too, I always hear people like, oh yeah, I pulled this card, like they're almost kind of bragging about it. Most people don't really care, to be honest, if you pulled it or if you, bought the card. It's not that big of a difference. What I think is a bigger flex is when someone actually has a crazy collection. I don't care if they pulled it or, if they bought every single card. I know they, worked super, super hard and took a ton of time and bought all of those cards for the cheapest amount possible. Unless they're just rich and they're just buying whatever. So yeah, definitely be careful. Just because it's Pokemon doesn't mean it can't have like real life consequences. So just make sure all your finances are taken care of. Like I said, for the third time, like that is so important. And then from there, just try to be smart and, get singles, open stuff every once in a while. Maybe make like a little thing like once a week, you open up a couple packs here and there or something, try to, get a little routine going to where you're not just ripping open stuff constantly. And if you have that big of a problem too, definitely just go sell all your sealed products right now, probably, because you're eventually just going to open it up anyways. If you don't have any sealed products in the house, better chance of you, not opening it up. Or you could, go leave it at a friend's house or your mom's house or your uncle's house or whatever it is, just so it's out of your house. But hopefully you can get that under control. All right, next is at Tavi TCG. Hey Beard, love the videos. I'm conflicted on holding my Lugia V alt in a PSA 10 that I pulled and graded myself or trading for a Twilight Greninja EX in a PSA 10. Greninja is my favorite Pokemon, but I absolutely love the art on the Lugia V alt art. It was a card that got me back into collecting. Thanks for all you do. So that is a very, very tough one for sure. So the Lugia has a way higher pop than the Greninja. The Greninja pop is like 7,000 or 8,000. I don't know if the Greninja pop will ever get to 21,959 in a 10. Because, it's been out for a decent while now. We still got a few more years, but with Twilight being so expensive, it's not like people are ripping this stuff open every single day. And Lugia V is actually one of the easier alternate arts to pull because we had some error tins. So there's a lot of these on the market. And Greninja is your favorite card. I do like the Lugia V a lot more, but I also like Lugia way more than Greninja. So I'm definitely super biased. But just trust, whatever you want to collect. Greninja is your all-time favorite Pokemon, and it's a card you're going to need and you like it more than the Lugia, you can definitely, trade it and get your favorite card. All right, next is from at Browns Fan 21. Hey Beard, love the content, keep it up. I recently got my Mega Charizard X promo 23 from the new UPC grid and it came back at 10. Just wanted to see what your thoughts are, whether it's worth selling right now or holding on for a bit. I know they'll probably keep coming down and down in the near future since it's so new. But after seeing this last promo boom, I feel like this could go way higher in the future possibly. Would love to hear your opinion, thanks. So it's still pretty new, so we don't have like a ton of pop reports on it yet. So we don't really know how tough it is to grade. That's going to make the biggest difference for sure. And we do have some sales. One at 457, 430, 510, 560, 500, 480. So it's definitely going down in price. We even have one here at 600, just literally in the last couple of days. But if it were me, I would probably sell it right now. I have a feeling you'll be able to buy this card for $250 in a PSA 10 very soon. Especially, there's a lot of these Mega Charizard UPCs. I've talked with quite a few store owners and stuff, and they're getting a good amount of them. So I could see this card dropping a bit more. And then once it does drop, 200 to 250, and it does have, kind of a lower pop, like it's actually kind of tough to grade, then it might be a good card to pick back up for the future. Next is from at America762. What do you think about the reveal of Yu-Gi-Oh! Full art cards? I kind of like them. Let me know down below what you guys think. They're a little busy for my liking, but I think they're a lot better than what they've been getting. So I'm very, very happy. And it also says new serial number rares. See, I may collect a couple of these, at least of like my favorite characters from Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, I do that sometimes. Like I have pretty much all the ghost rares from Yu-Gi-Oh! At least of my favorite characters. You know, I like when they do stuff like that. But I think it looks sweet. I think there's some more of them down here also. Yeah, that Dark Magician is sick. If you guys did not know, I also collect vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! And vintage Digimon and a ton of other stuff too. That Blue Eyes is also sick. Wow, this card's crazy. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are definitely a little busy compared to Pokemon. It's kind of wild. But yeah, I'm excited. Next is from Timothy. Hi, Beard. I'm looking to purchase a 151 Zard and a PSA 10. How low do you think it will go? So, let's see here. It got up to about $1,400. Now that sold $965, $899, $950. It's definitely starting to slow down a little bit right now. The last dip, it got down to about $675. And the dip before that, it was at $330. I don't think it's going to get down to $330. I could definitely see this card cooling off a little bit more, maybe towards $750, $800. But when a card is just dropping like that, just keep watching it, and you'll be able to tell when it starts to slowly go back up in price. You know, you'll have a lot of sales leveling out, and then a couple higher ones, and a couple more higher ones, and then you might want to pick it up. But yeah, I could see this thing being $750 to $800 again, no problem. Next is from Jet Feather. Hey Beard, love the videos. I recently had a stroke of luck and pulled a prismatic Umbreon a few months ago. I sent it in for grading and it just came back at 10. Congrats. What are your thoughts on this card long term? It feels like this is the card that defines the era and it's pretty hard to pull and grade. Will this one get back to 4K eventually? Thanks. So, if you guys did not know, the Umbreon has taken a pretty big hit raw. So, same with the Sylveon. A lot of the prismatic evolutions are dropping. Like we got an Umbreon sale here at $825 raw. Another one at $1,050, $899, $950, $900, $885. And this card was literally just $1,050 or $1,100 last week. But in a 10, got up to about $4,500, all the way down to $26, and it's actually going up in price a little bit right now. Last sold $3,150, $35, $3,150, $37, $3,350. So this does have a pretty low pop. $3,589 in a 10, $5,911 in a 9. You know, these cards are very, very tough to pull, and it's pretty tough to find prismatic for cheap to where, you know, you'd even want to open it. But with the raw taking that recent big hit, I have a feeling the PSA 10 will follow a little bit. I mean, we're talking $3,000, $4,000 for a brand new card. It's pretty crazy. You can get a lot of grails for that price. So I don't know if it will ever get back up to $4,500. Maybe once prismatic is completely out of print and, you know, no one's opening it up anymore and there's only 6,000 of them in a 10, that's when I have a feeling this Umbreon could go absolutely crazy. So if you don't need the money, you know, it might be a good card to hold on to down the road. But otherwise, if you need the money and you can get $3,500 for it, then I'd probably take that, especially with that big dip for raw. All right, next question is from Face the Music. What's up, Beard? I'm looking to buy my first UPC. I'm looking at Prismatic and the Moltres UPC. I can get both at roughly the same price, around $180 to $200. With shipping and taxes, which one will be a better hold long term? Thanks and Happy New Year. So that's actually a super tough one. They both have stuff going for it. You know, with the Moltres, it's a GameStop exclusive. You know, that helps a ton because I just feel like there isn't nearly as many of them printed, you know, compared to like the Mega Charizard UPC. And I do think it does have a better promo, but the promo is a reprint of a card we already got. Now the SPC, it has Prismatic Evolutions in it. Basically the best set, or if not, you know, the top 2 or top 3 set in the Scarlet and Violet era. So that has a ton going for it also. And then it does have the Eevee, which is a pretty cheap promo. It's like a $20 promo. And I don't think the Team Rocket's Moltres will get down to $20. I hope it does. I'm going to buy a ton of them if it does. But I can't see it getting that cheap. So honestly, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with the Prismatic SPC. And there is another little reprint I think we're getting soon. I've seen some pictures and stuff the last week or so. So maybe wait till that drops and it could come down in price a little bit more. But, I mean, having Prismatic Evolutions, pure Prismatic Evolutions with a very solid promo, not too bad. But like I said, they're both amazing. You really can't go wrong with either one of them. All right, next question is from Junior Gomez. Oh, saint of bountiful, bodacious beards. I was a bit disappointed with the Mewtwo SIR from Destin Rivals. With that, I am over the moon with the new Mewtwo SIR from Mega Dream. Do you think the Ascended Heroes Mewtwo SIR will outperform the Mewtwo from Destin Rivals? So it all depends on pull rates. I have a feeling that set's going to have some easier pull rates, kind of similar to a Crown Zenith type set. That's my guess. And if it does, it will not be nearly as expensive. But let's say if they do have super tough pull rates and it's a little bit more like Prismatic Evolutions, then this Mewtwo could definitely give the other Mewtwo a run for the money. I actually also like the new Mewtwo a little bit more. So, I've seen it about 50-50 so far. All right, next question is from Matt Krypton. Hey, Beard, there are a few vintage Pokemon cards I want to collect, but there are also quite a few modern cards I want to add to my PC. How do you think I should go about collecting? Should I focus on vintage ones first or take advantage of the dip of modern right now? So I would definitely focus mostly on vintage because, they're not going to add new vintage cards. Once you're done with vintage, you're done. And even though the modern cards are technically dropping right now, they could drop a lot more. So I would probably do like 80% vintage and 20% modern right now and just pick a few cards that you really feel like are pretty well priced to where if it does drop a little more, it's not that big of a deal. Or maybe like a couple Grail modern cards that you've just been, super excited about and you can't wait any longer. But I love to get my vintage done first because like I said, they're not adding new vintage. Once it's done forever. And it's just sitting in that binder and it's such a good feeling. All right, next is from William Grealish. Hi, Beard. Love the content. I listen to your videos daily during my commute to work. I've been collecting for about a year and a half now and recently started selling on TCG Player. I've built up an inventory of mid-era modern cards, maybe about 2 binders worth, not high-end cards ranging from $1 to $50. I've been to many card shows and think I'd enjoy vending. Do you think it's worth vending even though my inventory isn't as large as some of the other vendors? So definitely. The only reason their inventory is better is because they actually go vend. You got to think people bring them collections all day, every day to buy, and they can just pick through them, pick out the best cards, do whatever, and then they offer, 70 or 75 or 80%. So I definitely recommend vending immediately. Next is from Mr. Evan 66666. What do you think the best investment type will be years from now? Booster boxes, PC ETBs, or PSA 10 chase cards? So I still do feel like booster boxes will be king in the future just because they have so many packs and they're so small and compact. But I have a feeling, a lot of the PC ETBs, maybe not a lot of them, but I'd say maybe 20 or 30% of them will outperform their sets booster boxes. Really depends on the promo for sure. And then for PSA 10 chase cards, that also really depends on when you buy the card and which card it is. If we're just talking super high pop modern chase cards, I don't think they're going to be that expensive because odds are, we've already seen a ton of reprints just recently. We got another special illustration rare Mewtwo, another Lily's Clefairy. So we're going to be constantly getting newer cards that people might like a little bit better than some of these cards. So, it's going to be a very small amount of PSA 10s that'll outperform some of the sealed products. And then, like I said, some of the PC ETBs are going to do work, like Obsidian Flames, and, like 151 doesn't have booster boxes. So obviously, the PC ETBs are going to be the king. But all right, next question is from Sphinx FIFA. Hey, Beard, if I win my fantasy league this week, I'll have around $1,000 to spend on a big card for an investment. I'd love to spend it on a vintage rock card, thinking first edition Shining Tyranitar, Gengar Skyridge, Nidoking Aquapolis, or a low pop PSA 10 Vintage 10, preferably an EX silver border of one of the big name Pokemon dots. So really depends on your collections. If you're just buying like a random raw card because you like enjoy those cards, but it doesn't really go with another collection, that's when I like to get, a lower PSA 10 pop. Because then at least with that card in that grade, there's only going to be another, couple hundred people or maybe 1,000 at most that have that card. So to me, that feels a little bit more special. But if you are working on, first edition Shining cards or, Skyridge or, the Crystal cards or whatever it is, then you can definitely get one of the raw cards and just, one little step closer to completing those sets. And last question. Again, I apologize for this being so short. It's from @LO Mob. Dearest Majestical Beard of the Poke Dynasty, can you share with us a horror story you experienced while vending? So I've actually been pretty lucky so far. The only thing that really bugs me is there's always a bunch of sick kids that people bring in, even vendors. I'll see vendors bring super sick kids in, and almost every card show I go to, someone in my family gets sick. So that's super annoying. Otherwise, I've had a few pretty annoying people, like just trying to get cards for free and, like 20-year-olds doing trade-up challenges. And I'm like, how old are you? They get all attitudey, and it's just like, I ain't doing that. So, and I don't think I've had anything stolen from me yet. But then again, when I do edit, I don't watch every second of it. You can kind of tell when stuff happens, when you can hear people talking and stuff. So I skip through. So I've honestly been pretty lucky. I've heard some pretty rough horror stories, of people just getting completely robbed or, like there was a video, I think Opossum Bud just made a video of someone stealing an entire like money sack. I couldn't even imagine that happening to me. And then same thing too. Some people will break into hotels where all these vendors are staying and grab their cases or their cars. Because if there's a card show at a hotel, they know they're going to have, a ton of cases of cards in there. So that's why I'm super paranoid when I go to these big card shows, and I pretty much have my case on me at all times, just so, I don't even have to worry about it. So if you are starting to vend, just definitely keep track of everything, because that definitely sucks. But all right, that was today's Pokemon What If Wednesday. If you guys like this content, please make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a like and comment. And then the Mega Charizard UPC, I announced the winner on my last Market Monday. That was not claimed again. So definitely go check that out. Maybe you guys won the Mega Charizard UPC and you guys are just missing it. Because I want to get it to somebody, for the holidays. And of course, if you guys want to support more, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube membership, eBay link, you guys know what to do. You guys are the best. But all right, I want you guys to have a great day. If you guys want to watch my last Pokemon Market Monday, which was actually a super good one, and then I announced the winner, click this video here. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.